connection, support, clarity, and confidence. Oh, and with perfect timing. Can you believe we're talking about financial planning and so much more today with my guest, Lyndsey Monahan? You don't want to miss this. Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Art of a Meaningful Life. I'm Carmen Davailus, and I am your host. And I don't know, I think forever I've had this mission in my mind that I want to see the world with more kindness, more compassion, connection. And yeah, I just feel like this is kind of, I don't know, and more love, right? People laugh at that, but I think a world I like that's my vision. And so our podcast here is my way of sharing stories and lifting all of us up in so that I could see this around. And I don't know. I think of all times in the world, perhaps this would be a really good time to start seeing the world with more compassion. So that's that. And I said that a lot more words than I usually do, but that's okay because I have a really great guest today. I have Lyndsey Monahan, who is a financial advisor. And boy, do we have some stuff to chat about, huh, Lyndsey? Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. And you're right, we have lots of good things to talk about today.
We do, we do. So this is our conversation, and I have, I would love to know when. So numbers for me, I'm a creative. I was a nurse before that. I don't know if you know that, like for 40 years. So I really had to know my numbers and facts and things too. But the creative side of me was always kind of big too. But the idea of finances and accounting and things, some of my friends did that. And I was just like, no can do. It's just not my. So I would love to know what your inspiration was. What led you to say, "Oh my gosh, I know what I wanted. I know what I want to do."
That's so funny. So I'm going to start off by saying I never really had that aha moment. I think my career has been an evolution. But I will say that the reason that I got into personal finance is very personal. And I think as you talk to other advisors, you'll see that a lot of us kind of have a story that there's a reason why we got into financial advising. I think nobody sets out to be the annoying salesperson or the annoying financial advisor. There's a real reason behind it. For me, that was my parents got divorced when I was really young. And as a result of that, my mom had a really hard time paying for two girls on one income. I mean, primarily one income growing up. And so the biggest thing that we heard in our household was no, because I can't afford it, not because I don't want you to have it. And I simply never wanted to be in a position where that was something that I had to say to my own children.
Mhm.
So, it was always, you're going to go to college, you're going to get a degree, you're going to get a great job when you get out of school. And I did those things. I started working for a really small insurance company called State Farm Insurance when I was fresh out of college. And so when I was working there, State Farm had this really great program internally where you could pursue a professional designation while you were there. And I was so interested in learning more about personal finance simply from the perspective that I needed to know more about it, that I started taking those classes
Mhm.
and got two professional designations around personal finance, one around insurance, and just really spent my time like learning about personal finance for me. And along the way, I started helping some coworkers with it too. And then fast forward several years, I eventually left the corporate environment, became a, an entrepreneur, and because of shifts and turns in personal life things, ended up using personal finance as kind of this launch board into becoming a financial advisor, which really gave me what I wanted all along, which was freedom and flexibility with my time and who I got to spend my time with. And
Mhm.
so that's really kind of been my evolution, but it all started from, being told no because I couldn't afford it as a child.
Yeah, I want to touch on that. Being a child who heard that also, and being a mother who, a single mom who, said to my son also, I have this really empathetic view, like, look that what it would feel like to hear your mom who you love say that. And the feeling like goes deep to the core of
Absolutely.
knowing your mom wants to, and she would. but she just can't. I mean, I get kind of goosebumps thinking about that. I'm like, that is pain. You're seeing your
Yeah.
mom in pain, right? And
Yeah, absolutely it is. And I think one thing that stands out of my mind, and I'm just going to preface this by saying my mom knows that I talk about this stuff openly today, right? It's no big secret or anything, but there was a very poignant place in my childhood where I remember my mom being so distraught about paying bills that I was sitting down with her, and in the course of that discussion realized that she was actually paying two of the same bill, one that was in her name and one that was in my dad's name. And like, because I was sitting there with her, we were able to kind of work through that and she was able to get resolution with that. But that is a very jarring moment in my childhood where I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to be about my own finances because if I'm not, something like this could happen to me too.
hmm
And so that's been one of those things that I just keep in mind as I'm sitting with clients. And even to this day, I'll be working with the client on their cash flow and I'm looking for outliers when I go through their cash flow, right? What are the things that you're choosing to spend money on or that you're just paying because you're used to paying them? And I mean, in the last 6 months, I found someone that was paying a subscription service, the same subscription service on three separate subscriptions. So it happens to all of us.
Yeah, especially with multiple emails too, right?
Yes.
So I don't know about you. I have a lot of emails. And so maybe sign up with one email. Actually, I just found this with Zoom right
Mhm.
before we came on. Signed up with one email, but then I have another with another email. And when you go to look, so that's kind of the equivalent of your mom getting these bills and thinking, yeah,
Yeah.
gosh, I can relate to that. Yeah. And so the feeling for it, for you as a little girl, seeing that then and just saying, oh, maybe there's ways around this, right? There's some small solutions, things that could help.
Right. I think small solutions, but even more than that, it was, and it comes from this place of wanting to, I don't know, call it feminism, call it whatever you want, but it's really this feeling of wanting to empower women through personal finance. That theme has been something that I've really tried to wrap my practice around is that I really want to place people, especially women, in a place of empowerment with their finances so that you have control or you know what's happening with your finances and that you don't feel uneducated, which was really where my mom was. She felt uneducated and unprepared to do that on her own. And so giving that feeling or that sense of empowerment back to someone is very important to me.
Oh, and I mean, I, I know you're not very old. This happened with your mom, a generation ago, right? It still happens like all the time.
Time.
And, I've seen in couples where I'm gonna say you ask a woman a question about finance, she goes, I'm not sure. Let me check with my husband because he does that. And in fact, he does, but then she's not in the know, which I mean, and I will tell you, in my younger days, that may not have seemed as such a big deal as it is now to me. Or as I got older, I'm like, wait a second. It doesn't have to be, I need to know all this too. I need to know all this too. And it's not a trust thing. That to me is the team,
Mhm.
women need to know. I mean, yeah. I mean, things can happen. And then who wants to be that person sitting there and saying, I don't know. I don't know
Right.
where to look.
So the good thing is I do want to give a sense of hope around this too. I
Yeah.
actually see that shifting so much more now. So now it's almost gone, the pendulum's almost gone the other way, where a lot of the times when I'm working with couples, the woman is bringing the couple to the table, which I also love. But at the same time, I do recognize that there are situations where women, or there is at least one partner in the relationship that doesn't understand the financial piece of it at all.
Uh-huh.
So, really putting a plan in place that brings both parties in the couple together and gives them a sense of empowerment and knowledge about what's happening. They may not know all the intricate details of it, right?
Uh-huh.
And you can kind of go in and out with how much you want to know or how much you don't want to know, but just being able to have the conversation in an open and like kind of back to your theme, like being kind to one another about the finances, right? Like that's the most important part. Can we have a level set open dialogue about it so that there's at least a base level understanding about what's happening and
Hmm.
where information can be found?
Right. So important. And you just made me think of something. I have a friend who's now a former partner, but whose former partner liked to spend money. And my friend was talking, and he's more conservative and saves and watches, and he doesn't have, he has a really great balance between how much he works and not to overwork and such. And he was saying, well, we have big differences in how we spend money and stuff. So I don't think it's going to really be a really key point in our relationship. I don't think it's going to be a problem. And in my head, I was hearing ding, 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 ding. Like, that's a problem if y'all don't talk about it and have it set. And it wasn't until after they had broken up that he said, well, I paid for everything because he just went through his money. And I was like, that
Yeah.
that's a problem.
I do think it's so important to especially when you're in the dating and you feel like this is something that's going to progress, it's so important to have that financial conversation. Just to make sure that you're both on the same page. And, I've seen everything from couples that keep everything completely separate and independent to couples that run everything out of joint accounts. So
Mm-hmm.
the spectrum really is broad with how people handle personal finances. It's just let's have a deliberate conversation about it so that we're on the same page.
Yeah, and decide how to do that because there are a lot of options. And I was just thinking too how wonderful it is that there are people like you who can explain it in such a way that everyone at the table can understand that makes sense to them, right? Where it makes sense. And if you're going to make a decision and maybe it's a sacrifice in one way for something or it's not, or what have you, that you know where you're coming from with that, how that decision is made. And
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's
yeah.
it's so important to understand where each person is at
Yeah.
when you're talking about personal finances because, you know, I've told you a little bit about my background. I very much, when money becomes tighter, I go back to that scarcity mindset. And that's just what I was raised in, right? And so I automatically go back to scarcity.
Yeah.
And so making sure that I stay in an abundant mindset is really important to me. But I also know that in my mind, there's a dollar number that is attributed to that. Like that number has to be in the bank or close to that number in the bank for me to feel like I'm in a place of abundance, right?
Yeah. Me too. Me too, Lindsay. And I struggle with, I really have to consciously think to myself, okay, you're going to scarcity here.
Mhm.
Let's turn that around. And sometimes I can do that by talking to myself. And sometimes I can't. I'll journal it out or something. But and the scarcity piece is, and I think probably some people are going through this right now, is that fear and anxiety where the looking at things as abundance, then you start to ask, well, what if, what else? And start thinking in a little bit bigger, less chaotic terms.
Right. I
Yeah.
think
So
that especially just based on where we're at, like the last couple of weeks, we've had some market volatility, right? And
that's an
thankfully,
understatement.
it's an understatement, yes.
Yeah.
But what I would say about that is, thankfully, I've been in a position where I haven't had a lot of urgent calls from clients that are concerned about it. And it's because we've had so many discussions around this is my investment philosophy. This is what we're doing. And so when those questions come up during times of market volatility, it's, we're maintaining the course and the client understands that.
Yeah.
And if they don't, like I'll give you two examples. I have two what I would consider very young investors, both under 25. Those were two of the first phone calls that I got this week. And it was so, I guess, empowering to me to be able to have a conversation with them to say, do you feel like you have enough money in your operating accounts right now to weather this storm?
Hmm.
They both said yes. And it's like, okay,
Breathe.
you're in a good place then. Like just breathe, we're good here. And so I think there will always be clients that have questions and concerns about that. But then you have to ask yourself, are you confident in the person that's helping you manage your money? And are you confident that you know and understand the plan?
Mm-hmm. So you're
So
kind of a financial therapist. Yeah, yeah,
my
yeah,
husband says you sound like a financial counseling is what we should call it
yes,
sometimes. I'm like,
yes.
yeah, it's
Well,
something like that.
well, yeah, you're guiding people, right? And helping them. And when you mentioned between scarcity and abundance, a lot of us struggle with that, right?
Mhm.
Because whatever, we tend to lean one way and work toward getting, toward the abundant side. And what do you do personally when you find yourself, like some of your thoughts are more on the scarcity mindset side versus abundance? How do you transition to a healthier?
Great question. Really great question. So because I think because I've kind of had some times in my life where um just being really transparent, I've had enough life events that have not always been positive life events
Mhm.
that have caused me to have to rein in spending or things like that, right? So just so there's no question, like I've been through a divorce in the past, right? And so during that time of transition, things were a little bit tighter. And so when I find myself getting back to that scarcity mindset, the very first thing that I've learned to ask myself is, what am I not doing that is causing me to feel like there is even more scarcity than what there actually is? And a lot of the times, like I've discovered that I quit working out, I stopped seeing friends. I stopped making time for the things that I love.
Mhm.
And so then your world feels like it's collapsing in on you and it's only you and your thoughts that are left to kind of go through this scarcity mindset. And so then it's like, oh, well, let me go throw my tennis shoes on and go for a walk. And I'll
Mhm.
immediately start to feel better and kind of catch those nasty thoughts.
Yeah, I love that. I think I do that too. I didn't even realize that it just kind of contract down,
Yeah.
right? It's almost like you could read it across my forehead, no money or, not not enough or something. And I
Nobody can read that either.
nobody can, oh, you can't see that. Okay, that's good.
No.
No, but I'm like, and I'm not, then I'm not as apt to go out, or maybe if someone asks me how I'm doing, I don't really want to lie and go, I'm doing fine. I'm like, I'm really having a hard time, right? I'm really having a hard time, and that gets tiring after a while.
Sure. Sure. I think some of the best medicine has always been for me to put myself out in the sunshine. Like
Mm,
that's just me though. Like I just know that when I'm feeling down about something, and it could be anything at all. It could be, oh, I didn't like the way I handled this situation, or I'm kind of bummed that I didn't hit this goal or whatever it may be. A
mhm,
lot of times it really is just taking that hard look and saying, I need a reset. And
mhm.
for me, that reset usually involves some form of physical activity and putting some sunlight on my face.
You know, those are actually scientifically proven remedy. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
My psychiatry days. Not that I saw a psychiatrist, but I was in neuropsychiatry.
Well,
I
maybe
saw
that
them
too,
every
but
day. I saw them every day. I worked with them, but I'm just people. A lot of people feel a lot of anxiety, a lot of stuff, and I'm like, go outside, go for a walk. When we move and when we're outside in nature, maybe that's why I love my flowers so much, right? I'm out in nature and I'm connecting with nature. It actually changes the chemicals in your brain and you think clearer. There's a lot less chaos going on and it elevates the mood with no
there you go.
medicines. I mean, it elevates the mood. So you're spot on. You're spot on, but it's sometimes the easy things that we think, or, that's not going to be helping me. I need to just stay here with my forehead tattoo and not do anything. But it's
So
those
funny.
things. Yeah.
I want to touch on what you said about like numbers and stuff like that. Like there's one word in the financial realm that I really cannot stand. And I don't know, most people think it's kind of funny, but I
I
really
say
hate
it.
the term budget.
Oh, budget. Oh, no, I
I
didn't. I
really hate the
didn't.
term budget because it's restrictive, right? And it puts people in that place of scarcity, like, oh, I have to shrink my budget, right?
Um,
And so when I work with clients, I say it's a monthly wealth plan
Oh, I like that.
because that is just one of those things that like it has a more positive connotation. And
Hmm.
you may not think about it that way, but it actually helps you speak more kindly to yourself about your income and expenses.
I like that monthly wealth plan.
Yes.
I like that because I do use that B word budget, but I
Yeah.
think of it as how much is going to be left to play,
Mhm.
so monthly wealth plan that fits. I
Yep.
like that. I like that. Okay, so I want to, this has been a lot of fun. I want to close with if there's one bit of advice that you can give to those who are listening about, well, before I go there, see, there I go. My thoughts are skipping. I wanted to ask you too, and maybe we can end with this. How has this journey for you, learning this, thinking about scarcity versus abundance, and being that financial counselor of sorts for people? You're a mom, right?
I am.
You have two kids?
Two kids,
Two
yes.
kids, yeah. Has it changed, you think, the way that you educate them about money?
Oh yeah, tremendously.
Yeah.
So my kids are very far apart in age. So I have a bonus son who is 18 and he is all entrepreneur, like very strong entrepreneurial spirit. And I think that the way that we have chosen to speak to him about money and finance is if you don't have enough, so you feel that feeling of scarcity, like I don't have enough to do something, how can we make it happen?
Mm.
So how can you generate money to go do the thing that you want? How can and so it's manifested into being like he's 18, he has a business, he's an entrepreneur, right? Which is awesome.
Wow.
But we are also really careful to say why we give him the reason as to why we're not doing something for him, or we let him be a part of the decision-making process around something.
Uh-huh.
So, like, just an example, he wanted to play AAU basketball, right? And like for the parents out there that know all the things about AAU, it is not the cheapest thing for you to
I
do,
don't
right?
know anything about that. My son's 38, so
And so we just talk through like, okay, this is a commitment. If you want to do this, we're happy to support you in this, but let's talk about what the commitment from monetary standpoint means, but also what does the time commitment from a family mean for us to do something like that? And so we've done that really well with him. The other one is 4. She doesn't understand these things yet, right? But we're to the point now where it's you don't get a toy every time you go to the store. And it's not because we don't want you to have it. It's because you just got a toy the last time we were at the store, or
uh-huh.
you have this toy at home that's similar. And we talk through, and it's never we can't afford something
Uh-huh.
or that we don't want you to have it. It's let's really work through, is this a need or a want?
Right. Yeah. Well, good luck with that.
You.
Yeah. No, I'm saying that kind of fun, joking, like, but I have grandchildren that are around that age, and they understand a lot more than I might have given credit for at that age. They'll get that need versus want type thing. They'll
Yes.
just turn back and go, yes, but I really, really want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know like grandparents, I mean, I expect that when she's with grandma, she's going to get things that she probably normal wouldn't get, right? Like that's a perk of being a grandparent.
Some of us are a little weak. Yes. It
Nice.
is, it's a great thing. I mean, I loved being a parent, and I just kind of get to relive that in a different way and different wisdom, different stuff. So that's a beautiful thing, including how I view finances and all. So I do talk to my grandchildren a little differently, and it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
All right, Lyndsey, I have loved this conversation. I've loved this
Me too.
conversation. I think forever now you're just going to be that financial counselor for me.
I'll take it.
Okay, I like that title because I know you do so much for your clients to guide and support them and educate, but you need to be able to do that in a way they're going to understand, right? That's a
Yeah.
talent. Hmm. That's a talent. So.
Well,
So
thank
I
you
don't
so
have
much
to
for
be
having me.
financial counselor until I come up with something better, I think.
Okay. I'm good
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing the comments about this because I think when it comes to finances, especially around women, but also men too, that's a hot topic. And I'm glad about that because there was a time it wasn't talked about a lot. And I'm old enough to know that because that was in my era. hmm True story there. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And we will
Yes.
catch you up. Lyndsey, thank you. Thank you.